Good morning. Oh, good morning. Okay, it looks like I was muted for a second, but I'm not. So yeah. Good morning, everyone. And Chris is here. Chris Plastic.
Hello.
We all love Chris Plastic. So really quick, let's say hello to the chat before we start chatting, because once that happens, it's all over. Stanley's Toy Channel is here, and quick note to everyone, go watch Stanley's videos. He's back making videos as well. I've been watching his reviews and they are quite good. So he also is not just doing brand new stuff. He's doing some stuff that's been out a while. I appreciate those because I'm always behind on everything that's not Masters of the Universe. So go check him out. One of my favorite channels and one of the nicest people in ToyTube. Hello, Andrew of Gatie's Toys. Andrew just dropped an excellent video on the Princess of Power Unreleased Star Sisters yesterday, and plug. Andrew will be here next week, and we'll be coloring some Princess of Power. Yeah, Princess of Power.
Nice.
Which it's the 40th anniversary of She-Ra this year. I've got a lot of content. Hello. Ray, is it still all black for you? It's showing up on my side. Weird. Okay, cool. Never mind. We're there. We're all there. This may be correct. There is no fact checking on Facebook. Potentially there is on YouTube.
It is going away, but it is real.
Can you flip it?
Let's see.
Excellent. Excellent. Everyone, wait. There we go. Do the Kelly Garrett Charlie's Angels. Flip your GD hair. All right. Okay. So Nolan is here. We have officially arrived. Hello, Nolan. Lovely as always. Glad you're here. All right. And also we're coloring Star Wars today for those wondering if you didn't catch it in the title or the thumbnail. Chris picked two pictures. He picked this one of Luke and Leia. Since I will forever be in mourning of Space Mom, I wanted to start with that one. I've also done a lot of shorts, sort of from the scene, so this is a good excuse to repeat content without repeating content. If I finish, I will be doing this picture of Kylo Ren and Rey, which I think is what Chris is going to start with today.
Yes.
If I do not get to this, don't worry, I will make a short of this, and I'm going to label it the best couple in Star Wars ever, ? And then I'll get a lot of angry people watching that short really mad.
I like the sequels, and that makes me mad, so there you go.
Right. So if you see this as a short in your feed and it says best Star Wars couple ever, ? Please engage and like so that I can get the rage baiters. Anyway, I liked the sequels. Obviously, for me, nothing is ever going to be as good as Star Wars, aka A New Hope, and Empire Strikes Back. But I've never seen the Star Wars I didn't like because I love Star Wars. I even watch the holiday special every year and love it. So there we go.
This comes from the sequel movie I dislike the most. That's not to say I dislike it or hate it, just dislike the most, which is, of course,
the least favorite.
The Rise of Skywalker.
Oh, that is The Rise of Skywalker. But no, you're right. It is Rise. I dislike that one. Actually, okay, so this is going to be a hot take most people aren't ready for. I actually enjoyed The Rise of Skywalker more than I enjoy Return of the Jedi.
Oh, that's kind of an interesting take.
I'm not a huge fan of Return of the Jedi. I mean, as a kid, I loved it. As an adult, it feels the pacing is off. You've got the whole first act on Tatooine rescuing Han Solo. And then the second half is Ewoks, which, selling toys. But also, it's basically just a ripoff of the end of the first movie.
Sure. Now, this is me in my age. I didn't see it in theaters, but Return of the Jedi was the only original trilogy film released in my lifetime.
Got it. So yeah, it's going to hit different.
Right. So that was kind of my favorite Star Wars as a kid, if only because of the green lightsaber. I'm like, ooh, something different.
Yeah. See, it was the last of the original trilogy I saw in the theater. I mean, I still went and saw it 7 times. I still loved it. I had all the toys. It just didn't hit as hard. And as I grew up, it's the one still to this day I've watched. Well, technically, I've watched Last Jedi, Force Awakens, and Rise of Skywalker less because they've been out fewer years.
Sure.
But of the original trilogy, Return of the Jedi is the one I've watched the least, rewatched the least over the years. I mostly I mean, like, I love Empire Strikes Back, but when I want Star Wars, I just pop in A New Hope. Like, that's my default. If I could only have one Star Wars movie, it would be A New Hope.
That's that's an obvious and truly fair answer because it is such a good movie.
Well, it's also just why I love Star Wars. Like, again, like, it's hard for people who, like, again, I've seen them all. I'm old enough that I've seen them all at the theater 7 times. And when I say all of them, I mean I've seen the special edition Star Wars 7 times, which means technically I've seen the first one 14 times at the theater. That's my magic Star Wars number for you. So, did you see? People were like, "You even saw the Rise of Skywalker 7?" I even saw Rise of Skywalker 7 times. To be fair, 2 of those were at like a discount theater for like $2, because it did not. When it hit, like things were a little wonky and stuff. In my personal life, like I was sort of in the process of a weird move, and AKA, like, I had moved out of the house. I lived with crazy people, and Matt and I had just moved in together recently. And I have not, like, it'll be 9 years this summer that we've been together. But I used to be the person like, oh, yeah, nothing kills a relationship faster than moving in together. And it was just like I was in such a crazy situation that I'm like, I would rather live with a boyfriend. You expect the boyfriend to be go crazy. And ironically, it's been the exact opposite. So there you go. Hello, Payne. Lovely to see you. And hello, Alex. And that's a fair take. And what I like about this take, Alex, is as much as you and I talk about stuff, you have never told me I'm stupid for liking any of the new movies, and you've never told me I'm wrong for liking any of the. You just let me like the movies. So there you go.
See, and I'm one of those weirdos, and I know your guest last week is with me on this. The Last Jedi is my favorite of the sequel trilogy.
I think I shared this hot take last week. It's also mine. It's not a very, again, this is what I always tell people. The Last Jedi is not a very good Star Wars movie per se. It's a great movie. It's not the best Star Wars movie, but it's a really good movie. And I think, honestly, if Rian Johnson had made that and called it anything but Star Wars, people would love it a lot more widely.
I think that's a fair take. I think that's very fair. And I get it didn't align with people's headcanon.
Yeah.
Which was part of my problem with The Rise of Skywalker is I've shared this story before. Before that movie came out, I watched everything canon at the time before the movie came out.
Yeah.
Like just leading up, everything, hundreds of hours of Star Wars, the cartoons, everything.
Yeah.
So I created my own story and the movie didn't match it, and that was my problem.
Okay, so we're going to spoil the sequel movies, and I'm going to tell you the 2 things that Rian Johnson did that people say were bad and wrong and ruined Star Wars, or ruined it for them, or whatever. And I'm going to say the 2 things that I thought watching them that The Rise of Skywalker could have done that would have probably flipped the script a little. So number 1, there was the whole like Luke Skywalker dies, right? Sorry, spoiler, but whatever. If you don't know that yet, then what? I can't help you. The movie's almost 10 years old. It's okay to spoil it. Almost 10-year-old movie on a Star Wars stream where we're coloring pictures from said movies. But whenever Luke becomes one with the Force, his hand disappears with him. which it should not have. It should have just fallen to the ground. Well, it's fallen to the rock he was sitting on. So to me, that meant he actually had gone into the in-between place, like Ahsoka went. That is shifting across the universe or whatever, his Force Ghost thing. Somehow he had to use the in-between place.
The world between worlds.
Yeah, that thing. I loved the concept. Whatever we call it. I thought he had used that to go through, and he somehow got sucked back in. And part of this next movie would be having to rescue Luke from that place. Two, whenever Rey is told you're nobody, like, etc., etc., I always assumed that was a lie. Because she was told that in the dark side place. She wasn't told that, like, she was going in to confront her. It's like in the cave, Luke sees his face behind Vader's mask as part of his, like, testing, right?
Right.
So, and that's sort of, yeah, it's a warning of what's to come, but it's also a sort of, foreshadows the big reveal at the end of that movie. But it also is like, here's what happens if you give in to the dark side. You could become Vader. And it's important to remember, although at this day and age it's accepted, whenever Darth Vader first says, like, I'm your father to Luke at the end of it, we didn't actually all believe him. Part of Return of the Jedi was like, was Vader lying? Like, I didn't think Vader was necessarily telling the truth. It could have been a lie. So that's what I thought with the Rey thing. Like, you come from nobody. I thought that was a lie. And technically they flipped, like, you're a clone from Palpatine, but in my headcanon, Rey is, and it's in line with Skywalker stuff. But Rey is a kid that Han and Leia had that was sent into hiding.
Well, yeah, and here's the me asterisking that she's not a clone of Palpatine. She's the daughter of a clone of Palpatine.
Ah, there we go. So whatever.
Yeah,
it's sort of it, but it's still like, it's still
right. I will say that when they said she was nobody, I'm like, I can accept nobody because that. Sure. The worst thing you can think at this point is like, I might be somebody. And I thought that was okay. It was okay because I felt like The Last Jedi is anybody could be a Jedi.
Right.
Be it Rey, be it Broom Kid.
Right.
Justice for Broom Kid.
Yeah, that Broom Kid, like, whatever happened to him, I wonder.
He'll be in the new Jedi Order, right?
Excellent. I hope.
But I will say, speaking of the world between worlds, after watching everything canon, going into Rise of Skywalker, already hearing the somehow Palpatine returned, I thought Palpatine had returned via the world between worlds, and that would have been really interesting. Like, he somehow cracked it.
And this is a great point. Thank you, Trash Picture Show. Great take. I agree. Like what you like. And hello, John. Lovely to see you this morning. And Derek Hoover slipped in. Hello, Derek. And who did I miss? I missed somebody. Thanos is here. Hello, Thanos. So, all right. So anyway, and that's because whenever Chris is here, like some of my guests, like next week with Andrew, I forget the chat is happening. So sorry, guys, but you guys are talking pretty well among yourselves. So if we forget you, it's just because we're friends and nerds. And I'm coloring and talking, and it's hard to keep up with it all. But yeah, no, I mean, like, I also see the sort of the point of, like, anybody could be a Jedi, and I get that. And this is where I almost sound like one of those horrible gatekeepery Star Wars fans, and it's not that. It's just like, this is what for me Star Wars is. And it's okay that it's not that for everyone, and it's okay that they're not catering to me. But from my personal taste, for me, Star Wars is the Skywalker family.
Sure.
I can, things like Rebels and The Mandalorian are fine because these are sort of side stories. I feel like if it's a Star Wars movie, it should really be um, Skywalker adjacent. And like, and somebody was like, well, what about Rogue One? It's like Rogue One is 100% like Skywalker adjacent. It ends with Leia. Vader
Right.
is all up in that movie. It sets into play A New Hope. Solo, 100% also. Like Solo, Han Solo goes on to marry a Skywalker and be best friends with Luke, and his kid is a Skywalker, like not last name or whatever, but like Skywalker. So for me, like that's I want the movies to basically, and that's again, this is my take, this is my Star Wars, what I prefer. But I also am not mad that other people enjoy not Skywalker stuff. So I don't know. I guess I'm used to the time where there was no Star Wars at all and you took whatever crumbs you could get. So I'm just grateful when there's Star Wars. And so then Kenzo is here. Hello, Kenzo. Lovely to see you as well. And Brick. Good morning, Brick. One of my other who was here last Sunday. So anyway, yeah, like I don't know. Star Wars is just Star Wars, and I think if there's Star Wars I don't like, I just don't engage. Again, Return of the Jedi, not my favorite Star Wars. I just don't watch it that much. I also don't spend a lot of time tearing it down. If it's your favorite, great.
Right.
I'm glad you have a movie that makes you happy. I don't know. It's just weird to me the whole. I didn't like it. You're not allowed to like it. You liking it is somehow a personal. I mean, it's not like it's. I don't, like obviously there's certain things that if you watch it, I'm gonna, like evil movies that have underage children in them that are horrible, like that you can't say it on YouTube, but like CP or whatever, like I'm gonna judge the hell out of you if you
Well, yeah, that's a whole different
like
thing.
yeah, so it's like that's not what I mean. Like I'll judge the hell out of you if it's like a snuff film or illegal content, right? Because there's some morality there, but I mean everyone's like Marvel movies have gotten so terrible. Spoiler alert, I've never really cared for I don't like any of the Iron Man movies. I don't like any of the Avenger movies. The first Marvel movie that from sort of the Marvel Cinematic Universe I liked was Miss Marvel. I
See,
kind of like, so
I would say I really, really like the Captain America trilogy.
I enjoyed it, but it wasn't something I wouldn't, like at the time I saw it, me and one of my coworkers, we would go every payday. Because we both ended up having every payday. It was always fall on our scheduled day off, so we would always go see a movie and get lunch. So we went and saw just anything, and that's the only reason I saw Captain America was because I enjoyed it. It wasn't like there was a movie or two where I'm like, oh my god, I can't believe we paid to watch that Sucker Punch. Um, Sucker Punch. I wanted my money back after that one. Um, but like I don't know. Also, I'm not a big Marvel fan growing up. Like they killed Dark Phoenix when I was really little, and it messed me up. And then they canceled Spider Woman. So Marvel just didn't have the same oomph for me as DC did.
Well, and I'm a DC guy,
Yeah,
through and through. But I'll go to the Marvel movies just because that's the superhero that I can get.
yeah, yeah. And I think if you like superheroes, like Marvel, fulfills the fun. I just don't have sort of the emotional connection with a lot of those characters, so it's really different. Like exactly, agreed. Oh yeah, it was a total. And the problem with Sucker Punch, the side tangent, right? We're gonna go on a side story really
Side
quick.
tangent.
The thing that disappointed me the most about Sucker Punch is there were a lot of elements in there that would have made a really good movie. I kind of liked the whole like some of the sequences in it were really fun, but it was just like the movie all around it didn't. It was like a lot of fun music. Like if those had been released as music videos, like it would have been a completely different reality for me. But as a whole movie, it didn't work. So, and then really quick, Mint on Card. Hello, welcome. Thank you for joining us today. Lovely to see you as always. And at some point, I'm gonna try to see if Mint on Card wants to join me some Sunday on here to color. So everyone peer pressure Mint on Card to clearing their schedule to join me.
Do it.
So and it's not completely out of left field. Mint on Card said in a message at one point, one day I'll join you. So it's, you know, like, it's not like horrible peer pressure. It's he has indicated, and if I'm getting pronouns wrong, Mint with Card, please correct me, but he has indicated to me that he would be interested in that. So Derek's, yeah, Mint on Camera, there we go. So anyway, but yeah, so Star Wars, which really quick, I'm gonna side quest. So I've now that we have a house and a half space, I've been finishing off some of the weird corners of my Star Wars collection, and I got this in the mail, so I now have all 4 of them. This is OG Star Wars content. So through Cheerios, I believe it was, General Mills cereal, which is the company that owned Kenner at the time, they released a series of posters. This is the only one I did not have. The others are stored, and it included some rebates so that you could send in rebates and get money back on various Kenner toys. Play-Doh, Milky the Marvelous Milking Cow, which I think everybody remembers, right?
Absolutely. I have no idea what you're talking about. Okay.
The large size figures, the Death Star. The reason though this is, and the sort of form for it is back here, along with Hardy Boy dolls, Bionic Bigfoot, Sarah Brown from International Velvet. I've got that doll. Some of the board games, Bionic Woman, and of course the Betty Crocker Easy Bake, because for a while Easy Bake was branded with Betty Crocker. But the main reason, of course, I got them is they had these coloring sheets on them, these little mini posters. So I'm going to get those scanned and then turn those into coloring pages. And there'll be videos of some capacity. So anyway.
Very cool. Very
I now own all 4 of them. So that was sort of my cool completing the Star Wars collection.
Mint, I tell you what, if you need any help with camera equipment or getting set up, let me know, because I love doing tech stuff like that.
Yeah, let us all know. There are a ton of us who have, all of us are do-it-yourselfers. So we'll figure it out.
I mean, I'm not sure about Allison. I know it used to be true. The overhead camera here is a phone.
Yeah. Yeah, same. Mine, yeah, the one that I'm looking into is just a cheap $25, $30 cam camera that I got like from Amazon. I think that one might even be linked in the description. And I have to say, I'm an Amazon affiliate, so if you buy it through there, I get a small commission. You have to disclose. But the camera that my coloring page is on over here, it's just my iPhone. So if you have a phone that has an even slightly decent camera, that's all you need to get started. And my recommendation, if you're wanting to do any sort of online content, use what you have. Don't put a ton of money into it until you decide you like it, because nothing would be a bigger bummer than to invest a lot of money into making content and then realizing you don't want to make content.
You know, I'm bad about making content and I put money into it, but the good news for me is being techie and playing with things is kind of my bag, so it's okay.
Well, you kind of but you like making content. It's just the bandwidth to do content is not always there, and that's a different situation than doing something and not liking it.
Right.
So, but yeah, like just reach out. Like we can, like there are a lot of us who are. The nice thing about the little corner of YouTube that I'm on and Chris is on and Brick and everyone in the chat right now is we all are just about everyone sort of making stuff and talking about what they love. So none of us are like, oh my God, if Mint on Card starts making content, we'll be put out of business or whatever. We're competitive in a fun way.
Right. Like I can't say how excited I am because I think next week, Brick Something, your guest last week, chatter in the chat, moderator of the moderated, is having Quip on as a guest.
Yeah,
And if you don't know Quip, Quip is one of like the most
it's
wonderful people.
exciting. I'm so excited for that one. Well, most of us don't even know what Quip looks like. So like it'll be the whole thing is like, is Quip gonna be on camera? And I don't it's just exciting. So we'll see. We will see. And then if Quip likes being on a camera, maybe I can get Quip to come on here with me sometime in color.
Well, and I can't believe I've gotten one piece of fan mail in my entire career, and I say fan mail because it was from Quip, and it was specifically like, "Hey, thank you for making content and sharing, your passion." So Quip is a cool dude.
Yeah. I was having a hard time finding some of the strawberry shortcake Five Below chibis because we don't have Five Below in my neck of the woods. And Quip found one of the ones I was missing, and without me even, I had just said, "Oh, I need to find these," and Quip was like, "Hey, we've got them. Where can I send them?" And I had it within a few days, just out of the kindness of his heart. Like not even wasn't even a thing where I was like, somebody buy this. Like you see some people on social media who I was just like, I'm looking for these. I need to find them. I will get them. And Quip was able to manifest it for me, which is really cool when you find people who are just kind for the purpose of being kind. And Quip is one of those people. If he's in a chat, it's always good. Because, nobody quips like Quip. So, yeah. Yeah, at some point we should, like once we start rolling out the retro cavalcade, the Royal Juror More, which we will be. We're going to do a few more of those episodes this year. And our plan right now, for those who enjoy when Andrew and Derek and I just get on screen and talk about stuff, because it is the 40th anniversary of She-Ra, the talk right now is that we're going to rewatch The Secret of the Sword and start rewatching episodes and get together to talk about them.
I always really wanted friend of the world, Kayla Silva, over from Geek DF Out, to watch the DreamWorks era after watching Masters of the Universe Revelation and Revolution.
Oh yeah, I bet she would have really loved those. I quite enjoyed them. It was that thing where it's like, this is not quite for me. I liked them. I'm not one of the people who was offended that 16-year-old She-Ra was not sexy enough. She's built like a man. I was like, she's just a thick girl. Girls are thick, guys.
Well, and She-Ra was thick, not necessarily Adora.
Adora was not. Yeah, right?
I appreciate the actual body transformation.
Yeah. I watched the whole series. I liked it. It wasn't, like, again, like, this isn't me saying it in sort of grumpy old fan. It wasn't my She-Ra. It wasn't my She-Ra. It wasn't made for me. And it's like, what I really appreciate, though, is there are a lot of kids, especially on the Tumblr. I'm going to call it the Tumblr so I can sound extra old. But there were kids on the Tumblr who just loved that. Like, they were making all sorts of like fan art and standing, and I think that's what the kids call it, right? Stan.
Definitely
And
Stan.
doing a lot of fan fiction about various characters, and just invested in it. And I was like, that's sort of the point. Like, you have to breathe life into these old properties every few years in a way that kids can embrace it. And I don't know, like, again, it didn't set my world on fire the way the original did 40 years ago this year. But it wasn't meant to. It was meant to be something for a younger generation. And for the people who loved it, they really loved it. So I think it did what it was supposed to do. It like helped breathe some new life into Shira and give Shira a few more years in the pop culture lexicon, or whatever it is we're gonna call it. So I don't know. I think 10 years ago, well, more like 15 years ago, I would have been more upset. How dare they change Shira on me? But as I get older, the less I'm worried about it. Like, they've reinvented Strawberry Shortcake every few years, and none of the reinventions have ever landed for me, and that's sort of okay. Like,
Well, I mean, think of He-Man. How many times was he reinvented in the first like couple of years?
oh yeah. Well, I mean, even Filmation was a reinvention of the original lore. So I don't know.
I got the cartoon collection, She-Ra, recently, and I kind of was blown away
Oh,
by just like
nice.
how like vintage Hollywood She-Ra is in her appearance.
Yeah, and Stanley has a good point. CGI He-Man was also I also enjoyed those as well. So
I didn't
it's a
care for it
cute
as
cult, and I'm
much.
gonna same cute.
That's okay.
I liked it. Again, it was sort of like with the She-Ra. I could appreciate the new He-Man CGI. I thought there was some fun stuff in it. I thought Ram Ma'am. I I giggle every, like when the figure showed up, and I was like, look, Matt, it's Ram Ma'am.
Oh,
He
what a
busted out
clever
laughing.
like
He's like,
rebranding. I love that.
yeah, but also just it's got sort of the slightly punny dirt, almost quasi double entendre that some of the best He-Man figures had back in the day. I'm like, how can you not love that? So again, not for but also not supposed to be for me. And there are a lot of little, the at that point I saw a lot of little kids getting CGI He-Man toys. I just, I don't know.
I really loved the final Skeletor design in that show, though.
That was really good. There were some great designs in there. Great designs I would like to see them sort of integrate into like sort of the main He-Man lore. So maybe we'll see some of it in the movie. Like, they're gonna have to. People are already sort of having. I don't want to call them meltdowns because that's a lot.
There's some conniption fits for sure.
There's some little conniption fits already about, oh, they're gonna change this and that. It's like, well, just don't watch it, guys. It's like, it's okay to not, if it's not your He-Man, it's okay to not watch it. And it's okay if other people do. Let the kids have some stuff. Like, I think as a Gen Xer, I more and more lately realize, like, we've really got to make room for these kids to have stuff and to take stuff that used to be ours and reinvent. The same way, like, I did not have kids, so anyone who has kids who wants to correct me, no, you don't get to. But the same way I would go into my parents' closet and I would take, like stuff that they had left over from when they were teenagers. Like, my mom lost her mind when I took her bell bottoms and turned them into like cutoff short. Because in the 80s, you did cutoff shorts, right? And then you rolled them up and you sewed them closed and ripped the pocket out and put some sort of like pattern on the back. She was not happy with that. But that was me taking something of hers and reinventing it for the 80s and 90s. And I think we need to give the kids room to reinvent some of our stuff so that they like it. But whatever, you know. How dare I think of the children?
Children.
But yeah, I don't know. I just, I want the kids to have stuff.
Well, and that's Star Wars too. Like,
My niece, my niece is young and she liked Ray. Like she had all these Ray dolls for a long time. Not anymore because she's not that little anymore. But
I finally got my nephew to watch some Star Wars in the form of Skeleton Crew. He refused forever and ever. And he really liked Skeleton Crew.
That would be really cool. There's not. Brick, this is a good question. I don't know if there is or not. And I think I wish there was a name for it other than saying the CGI one. But as far as I know, there were, like we didn't get it's I think because DreamWorks also like I don't think DreamWorks did it, number one, which is why it's a DreamWorks She-Ra. And I think at the same time, technically we could say Netflix He-Man, but because it was running around the same time as Revolution Revelation, like that's also Netflix He-Man. So I think that's a little bit of the issue with the CGI He-Man is that it was dropped so close to Revolution.
Well, and I wouldn't want to be like, dismissive of it and go like, the kid He-Man.
Yeah, right. I don't want to call it the one for kids because, there are a lot of adults who did enjoy it. So, I wish there was also in a few years, like maybe by then we'll have sort of, some people refer to the 2000 and X He-Man as, Mike, MYP, but 2000 and X is sort of the default now, but I don't know if that's what it was called back then. I just remember it being called the new He-Man.
So, like, when I was watching it was the new He-Man. I didn't think about it. I wasn't going online to talk about it, even though online communities were.
Yeah.
So whenever I've really talked about it, it's always been 2000X to me.
Yeah, same. But it would be nice. I'm assuming eventually it'll get its own.
And we'll never get to know about CGI Hordak being Evil Lynn's mom or dad, mom. That would be an interesting twist. Hordak is
yeah, right.
Mom.
Wait, what did I missed one? There we go. Exactly. This is where I'm trying, and I don't always succeed here, Mint, with cards. So thank you for the reminder. This is how I try to live my life. I don't always make it.
As an aside for absolutely no one in this crowd or on this stream, recently on the GDL Discord, they were talking about the new Gundam series, which has got designs from, honestly, its main Japanese robot rival, Evangelion. And I'm like, nope, not my Gundam. Then I took a step back and went, no, it's just what's new. Take a breather.
I remember watching Evangelion. Is that how you pronounce it?
I've always said Evangelion, but I could be wrong. I don't know.
Well, I just said it. I have found more and more lately that my southern accent is starting to return, and I need to probably just stop fighting it. I know that I can't pull off a convincing vocal fry anymore. But I remember watching that and being very sort of into it, and then it had that really weird, esoteric, like deep thoughts ending, and being like, "What the hell did I just watch?" And then they had apparently, like, I wasn't the only one who felt that way, so they had to do like a sequel end of the movie that was like more in line with it. And then I rewatched it during the lockdown, and
well,
wouldn't you know
recently they retold the whole series
Did
in
they?
movies, with trying to lean more into that philosophical from the end
Yeah.
the whole way through. Um, but of course, it being Evangelion and the way it ends, the argument is it's not a remake; it's a sequel. It's just the cyclical recreation of the universe.
Right. Well, it's funny though because I rewatched it during lockdown, and at the end of it, I prefer. At that point, I was like, "Oh my god, it's so deep." So it just took, like 15 years and a pandemic to flip it
Right.
around for me.
Yeah, and I've never disliked Evangelion. I liked Evangelion. It's just two different design philosophies.
A cute cult, never. Like, in my personal humble opinion, the second that movie did not land, they should have just instantly started production on a proper movie. And I have said this maybe in messages to people who work at Hasbro and maybe like do some of the marketing at Hasbro. When I've talked to them about gem stuff, I might have even said the whole problem with the movie was trying to make it, modernize it. The key to Gem is to tell a story set in 1986 for modern audiences as well as nostalgia audiences.
Well,
Gem
and
is the
and
proper. Oh, sorry.
I just hope that they can learn from like Barbie. Like, don't stray from what the property is.
I rewatched Barbie on Friday. Um, and what I took away from it was the perfect way to not get away from the concept of Barbie, while at the same time doing something new with Barbie. Like it was sort of the way they went meta with it was sort of this perfect balance of like hitting all those points. And I had way more appreciation for that sort of a year removed, because there was the whole like, oh my God, it's just amazing. This movie is so good. Like I was completely just blown away by the fact that Barbie, the movie happened and that it was good.
Is it too much though to
Because
ask if they
I'm not gonna
do?
lie, from some of those photos that we saw,
Yeah, the photos were like I don't know what we're getting
if
into,
they
and the
do,
movie was so good. With Barbie, I was just gonna say,
yeah,
Andrew from Gatey's Toys talking about a Gem movie. Is it too much to ask for a Jerry Only or Glenn Danzig cameo? Just for me to have a giggle moment.
Glenn Danzig. Oh, if they ever do a Chris Star movie from Marvel, they need to put Glenn Danzig in it. But no, what I was gonna say about Barbie was whenever those set photos got released early of Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling in costume, I thought this is gonna be a hot mess. It's gonna suck. This looks like shit. And I was wrong. I mean, like the outfits were supposed to be that, but it was out of context. It made no sense. So anyway,
Context is
no, a gem
everything.
movie. Gem movie would just be really cool. You just have to do it like it's 1986. Like tell it like a live action version of the original cartoon. You have to, like because it would be a live action movie though, you could, sort of notch it up a little bit, as far as some, like certain elements you can notch up a little bit. But it doesn't need to be edgy. It doesn't need to be translated into modern sensibilities, and the fact that we don't need it to be about YouTube and online fame. And they overthought that movie. Like I think Gem is one of the few properties where it's so 1980s that any attempt to modernize that concept is just going to fall flat. And they modernized it so much that if they had not called that movie Gem, it might have done better. But it's just like anyone going to that movie because they enjoy and love the character is going to be disappointed because that's not the character you're getting. And that is the one thing I'll say. Like She-Ra and the Princesses of Power, the basic core of who She-Ra is was a different take on the character, but it's the same character. Whereas I did not feel at all that the character in the Gem movie was actually Jericho or Gem. So, and of course they saved Kesha till the very end. If we had gotten an entire movie with Kesha as Pizzazz, then maybe that movie would have hit different. So that was a pretty good song. So they technically didn't. Technically they did not ban it. I don't know if you can even find it. It's like it's disappeared. Exactly. Exactly, cute. That's what I wanted. Whenever they announced they were doing Gem, that's what I thought. Like a music video with literally like a movie version of the cartoon with all of the cool stuff that they could do set in the 80s. So it's not what we got. All right, there we go. Everything, I'm gonna hate this, I'm gonna make fun of it, it's gonna be the worst. And then it was not. It was so much, I had so much fun watching it. I laughed, I cried. I also really loved and some people didn't get this experience, but I went and there were all these dads that were taking like their daughters and their daughters' friends. There were like moms there with their kids. And it was really, and it was really close. It was the first big movie I went to after lockdown ended. And it was just really cool to be in a movie theater with people after sort of, like people being bags of pestilence for all that time. And it was like a party. It reminded me of when I went to like episode 1 back in 1999. Like there was just this like feeling of festivity in the air. Like everyone was there to enjoy Star Wars and watch it. It was the same. I went and saw Scream 2 on opening night. And that was the same. Like everyone there was there because they wanted to watch Scream, and it was like people were, like just enjoying it, and it was like this big for like 2 hours of that movie. Everyone in that theater was invested, and it was a community, and like that's how it felt with Barbie. It felt like everyone there was into it. Everyone was getting something from it, and it was just this lovely sense of community. So so what, watching it on Friday, I was like, well, maybe removed from like, an audience packed with people, maybe it won't, like, because I watched it a few times when it first hit streaming options, but it was so close enough that I felt that like that community that like had been at the theater. So I was wondering if like without that far removed, it still worked for me. I still really enjoyed it. I still thought it was really fun. So, I don't know. It's just nice, like it was nice going to a movie and enjoying it and not walking out feeling like I did when I left Black Adam.
Oh.
That movie made me so sad because I wanted so much to like Black Adam, and there was so much good stuff in Black Adam. Like Black Adam, like I've rewatched it a few times trying to figure out. I can't figure out quite where Black Adam goes off the rails. Like why it doesn't quite land, because it's got a lot there that should make it work.
That movie put such a bad taste in my mouth. I still haven't watched Shazam 2, which is kind of a shame.
Well, yeah. But it's like I don't understand why, because again, like there's so much about Black Adam that worked, and then somehow it just at the end something fell flat. Like the Justice League in it. I mean, the Justice Society in it. I thought was really good. I thought Hawkman was good. Dr. Fate was good. I am not a fan of the character of Cyclone in comics. but I really felt like this Black Adam movie made Cyclone work for me. Like it was the first time I'm like, okay, this is a cool character. Um, and
I
it
didn't
just, I
mind
don't know.
Cyclone in the comics.
It felt, we're not going to turn this into like Jeff Johns' you know, like fall off stream, but
Sure.
like it felt like when she finally arrived, it was in his less inspired times. And she was also one of the characters he took directly from Kingdom Come. And then just sort of dropped her in there. And it just, I don't know. Early Jeff Johns did some great stuff. And then sometime after like Blackest Night, it just stopped landing for me. I feel like he should have taken a big long break after Blackest Night instead of rebooting all of continuity for the New 52 and everything kind of sucking after that.
I will say, this is me being a momentary Jeff Johns apologist with the New 52,
Okay.
is that was Dan DiDio's direction.
Right, and we all know how much Dan DiDio sucks.
Right. Where I think Rebirth was supposed to be more his, or DC knew was more Jeff Johns. But John's lost his touch. I don't know when. I don't know when. We won't be that stream.
Yeah.
You know, Brick asked me if I was proud of him for buying a McFarlane figure. You know what? You owed me after I bought some AWOC figures, so we're even now.
Yeah. We won't. If I ever get my comics, my Wonder Woman copy go. Oh, everything is frozen. Okay, so today with the chat. So if chat stops popping up, it's because there we go. It's back. See, and that's the thing. There are a lot of people who did get back in the comics, so you know, it wasn't all bad. It just for me, it was, and I think at that point, I was buying every DC comic at that point, and like, I don't know. I think DC Comics for me first and foremost is Wonder Woman, and the New 52 was not kind to Wonder Woman in any way. First, it made like she's not relatable because she doesn't have a dad. So it made Zeus her dad, which of course there are a lot of stories where Zeus was pretty skeevy with Wonder Woman in the past. As Zeus is very skeevy. So it made all of those stories really gross. And you know, and then they made her Superman's girlfriend, which gross. I don't know. There were just all these things like, let's make her adjacent to a man so men can appreciate the character. And it made it really hard to read. And the guy who wrote the issues, Brian Azzarello, is that how you say his name?
I think so.
Whatever his name is. He's a great writer. He wrote some great stories, but it just wasn't Wonder Woman. If he had written that series and called it something else, I would have liked it probably a lot more. But it didn't work for me as Wonder Woman. So if they had done it as an Elseworlds thing, maybe, but otherwise not so much. But a lot of people loved it, so good for them. It's when I checked out. I was like, and I have every Wonder Woman comic consecutive through the New 52 going back to 1958. So.
Well, and like, there was no clear direction with the New 52, which was a big issue for me, at least.
Yeah, like, you got.
I was reading Superboy, and they kept hinting, like, oh, whoever his donors were for his DNA must be real sick. You're like, oh, that Lex Luthor.
Right.
And then it's like, oh no, it's much more complicated than that, and not in a way that is worth my time.
Yeah, well, not in a way that made sense. Like, and again, Teen Titans the same. I have every Teen Titans comic starting with Donna Troy's first appearance in Brave and the Bold, through New 52, and it just wasn't working for me. Like,
Well, and they couldn't even like figure out the character designs from the cover to the issue.
yeah. Well, and just the whole, like, again, Cassie stands. It's like every Crisis, Wonder Woman's supporting characters and sidekicks get screwed over. Starting going all the way back to Donna Troy in Crisis. So
Even now, I'm trying to remember like what New 52 Superboy's like actual genetic makeup was, and it makes my brain hurt.
yeah, I didn't make it that far. I stopped reading the Superboy. And that was how I knew it was over, because I started actually dropping titles, and I don't drop titles easily.
I think he was the clone of the time displaced future child of Superman
Yeah,
and Lois Lane.
that sounds vaguely right.
But his genetic makeup was unstable, so they added more Superman or something. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. It was a lot. And most of it was not great. So, but there were some characters, like Batman did mostly okay. Like Green Lantern was fine. And then like what I did like was stuff like I Vampire. I liked a lot of the stuff that they brought back. I wanted to like Hawk and Dove because I love the characters, and one would hope that having Liefeld back drawing feet badly would have helped, but sadly it did not. But that was, I think, who was writing that? Was it Gelson? No, Gelson wasn't writing Hawk and Dove. I think it was just Liefeld writing the whole thing. But no, Gelson had that Batgirl run was really good. Like, and she did a really good job of dealing with the fact that, they gave Oracle the use of her legs back and made her Batgirl again. Like, I think that was handled pretty well, all things considered.
To me, the biggest issue with New 52 was just losing all the momentum in some really cool storylines.
Yeah.
Arguably not Wonder Woman Odyssey.
Oh God, that was again like, and I think that's why New 52 landed even more poorly for me as far as Wonder Woman, was because it was just coming off this, like, Gail Simone had been writing Wonder Woman and had finally not that Gail Simone was doing a terrible job with Wonder Woman, but she had finally she had spent like 2 years on the title at that point, and a lot of what she had to do was going in and cleaning up all of the mess that had come before, and she did that very good job of sort of going in and tying all of the different continuities together and building up and trying to give new characters, as well as reinventing stuff that we hadn't seen since before Crisis. And then, like, in the middle of it, right when she's finally gotten it to the point where it's like she's cleaned everyone's mess up, they just bring in somebody to do a ringer story that like resets everything and makes it all edgy, and
she had a leather jacket and pants.
She had a leather jacket and pants, which is a lot edgier than the time she had biker shorts and a leather jacket and a leather
I remember
bra.
seeing that on the spinner rack at Barnes and Noble when that was happening and just not understanding anything.
That was one of my few breaks from comics, and it was in college because I was broke, and it was right after I had moved out. And Perez had left, and they had killed Dove as part of Armageddon 2001, and Donna Troy had lost her powers because women can't be all powerful without going mad and becoming mad goddesses and having evil demon babies. And
like you do.
Like you do, as a woman is wont to do when given too much power. Next thing you know, she'll be banning TikTok. Anyway, so yeah, like I was burnt, and then they had canceled the Huntress comic not too long before that, and they did the big breakdowns and the Justice League, where it went from being sort of, the J.M. DeMatteis gif and everything sort of a little funny and humorous to like everything being dark and grim and the Silver Sorceress dying. And then Marv Wolfman and Teen Titans, New Titans, but for like 2 years it was like death, destruction, Titans hunt. And I was just like, this is a lot. So I was burned out. They killed off most of my characters. William Messner Loeb's Wonder Woman run did not start off good. It was very plotting and boring, and it was not Perez. And I like Jill Thompson as an artist, but she was not a good fit for Wonder Woman. Like, I can still say that to this day, even though there's a lot she does that I really enjoy. She was great on Oh, shit. Anyway, she's a great artist on other DC properties. Too soon. Anyway. Yeah, let's not talk about that today. That's depressing. So anyway, but yeah, so I don't know. I just given up for a little. I was like, oh my god, what? Artemis thing. And I took my brother to buy comic books. Should start reading DC again. It's gonna get good. And he gave me like the first issue of the Artemis arc. And it was not like Matrix was not quite back as Linda Danvers yet, but it was like when she had that 4-part miniseries or whatever where she dated Lex Luthor. But it was enough that it got me back in. Ugh. So. Oh, shoot. Hello, Camcorder Nonsense. Really quick, for those who may not be watching, Camcorder Nonsense has amazing stuff on his channel. He's been taking old commercials and redubbing them. So go take a look over at those, because those gave me a lot of laughter last week when I needed it. Star Wars, what you looking forward to from the upcoming shows and movies? Our comics. I am behind on all of my Star Wars content, i.e. The comic books. I need to pick up some collections, because that's how I read Star Wars comics now. I just do the collections. It's easier.
I am really bummed about the lack of a future right now for the Acolyte, so I hope to see that continue in other medium.
Yeah, I was as well. I don't talk about the Acolyte because if you're not careful, you summon the demons of grotesqueness. But I was pretty bummed that that didn't continue, because I quite enjoyed it. I thought it was, for new, it was something different. It was fun seeing Trinity for a little bit.
Sure.
Carrie Ann Moss forever.
I feel really bad because I can't remember the actor's name right now, but Darth Bortles himself, Smilo Ren, I thought he played the role really well.
Yeah.
Especially only knowing him from The Good Place.
Yeah, it was. Right. A little bit of a different vibe than The Good Place. Yeah, I don't know. I liked that it was different. And I tend to not enjoy the before time stories. I was never somebody who read the Tales of the Jedi or Tales of the Sith back when Dark Horse were doing those. Because again, the Skywalkers are for me what Star Wars normally is. But I have been enjoying the High Republic stuff. I actually have enjoyed a lot of that, and I enjoy the Acolyte. So maybe eventually new Star Wars will get me.
I was kind of hoping that like it would kind of lead to this place because I personally, Chris Plastic fan theory is that there's a moment in time where somewhere the Jedi Order really like becomes really conservative in
Hmm.
their beliefs and really fundamental. And I thought the Acolyte was going to lead to that, and that's how we kind of transitioned to where we see the Order in the
Yeah.
Phantom Menace.
Right. Yeah, that was sort of the feeling I was getting. Acolyte 2. We must ban TikTok. I mean, whatever they use in Star Wars. But yeah, I was bummed about that. I'm just in general bummed anytime like there's sort of plans for more seasons of something or a bigger story and we don't get it. Um, sort of been why I haven't. People will often be like, "Have you seen this new thing on um, Netflix?"
Have you checked out Skeleton Crew
I
at all?
probably have not,
All right.
unless they're like, not yet. I've actually been saving that.
I will say the first episode has a lot of our worldness to it that kind of bothered me, but as the show went on, I really enjoyed it. It is
Oh,
100% Goonies in space, and they make no apologies about it.
no, there we go. Well, it's a good time because including the goodies. Da-da-da. Okay, so there we go. Hello, Tots. Hello and welcome. Lovely to see you today. So apparently TikTok is back, so I'll go check it out later, but I don't know how much faith I have.
Yeah, I like that.
I'm
Well, I
gonna
don't like. I just giggle that the current administration's punting it off on the next administration to deal with it,
right.
so they can be the bad guy.
Or the good guy.
Well,
Either way,
except they wanted to ban it before too, so we'll see.
yeah, the problem with TikTok is part of why politicians don't like it is it's very unregulated in the way it presents content. So like everyone actually, even though I've never gone big on TikTok, it's because I don't really make content that fits what TikTok is for. Um, but I have learned quite a bit about the world outside of the US because of TikTok, because creators anywhere in the world can get on TikTok and make content and then it gets to you. I've learned quite a bit from people in the United States who normally don't get platformed. I follow a lot of sort of Black women on TikTok who teach anti-racism and decolonizing stuff, and it's been really good. Like, and that kind of stuff. All of these people create like on YouTube and Instagram, but their stuff never got to me before. So it's just my concern is that part of why politicians don't like it is sort of all politicians, not one particular party, is sort of this very democratic way that you get content on YouTube. I mean, on TikTok that you don't on YouTube or Instagram or wherever, where if you go in and you engage with a particular type of content, they give you more of that. And they don't care what the person looks like or the person any of the stuff that sort of YouTube uses to decide who gets content, Instagram, etc. None of that applies over there. So my concern is that there will be meddling, so that it's now filtered and stuff is suppressed, and I
I
like choosing what I
agree.
don't want to watch. So anyway, it's my little political rant for the day.
I will just piggyback on that
Probably
with this. If we were serious about data protection, we would have a broad data protection concern domestically too.
well, I still have Temu and Sheen on my phone, so we're obviously not that concerned about data protection.
Right.
Because those are much more terrible about the stuff they take from your phone. So anyhow, we won't dwell on that. But so yay, I'll go check that after we're done, and hopefully it hasn't disrupted too much of my algorithm over there, so I can still get the content I want from TikTok. And then sometimes there's just funny videos. But anyhow.
I know my wife is always sending me TikToks on things we should be doing when we visit.
Right. I don't know. And that's also where I found the lady everyone's so creative, like Tanera. Like, I don't know. I've gotten a lot of good stuff on TikTok that I would never found otherwise. It just feels like, like I have probably been radicalized, but I've also I don't know. I've just learned a lot over there from all kinds of different people. And one of the things that's stuck out to me watching it is, regardless if someone is in the United States or what part of the United States, we're all pretty common in a lot of ways. Even when we don't disagree, don't agree on everything, and that, I don't know, there are all kinds of people in this world I had no idea existed, and I feel like my life is a little better because I know they exist now. So hopefully whatever the politicians have done to give TikTok a stay of execution, whatever it is, hopefully doesn't ruin that aspect of it, where it feels like I'm getting real free, people speaking their mind freely. So, and that's where we will leave it. And so, anyway.
I just realized how boring this page really is.
It's not. The problem, and this is Star Wars in general, unless it's one of the prequels, tends to be like a very gray color palette. Like,
well, and if I remember correctly, in chat, feel free to correct me. This room where his on his base or his ship was very white and glossy.
It was stark white. Yep. Well, and you would just for white, I will either use like, say, a cream color pencil, or I will use like a blue to sort of just do shading. So what I'll be doing with like Leia's gown in a little bit, I'm just going to use blue to, especially when it's on white paper. So, and you're coloring directly on the pages from this book, right?
Yes.
Okay. So you've even got sort of a less tooth on your paper. I did the thing I do where I scanned it and then printed it on my bougie paper. So
yeah, their paper is nicer than my photo paper.
Yeah, it's a little bit better than typical printer paper, but it still has it doesn't have as much tooth as I like. But these are really easy to scan because they're loose leaf and really quick.
Well, and the nice thing is I did scan them, obviously, you know that, before this. So I do have some high quality scans.
So anyone wondering, this is what the book that it's from, and it's all in this loose leaf format. But again, I took these, put it on my scanner and scanned it in and printed it on my thick cardstock paper.
Yeah, I will brag. I picked this up for $2, so you know.
Yeah, I
Some of it a
didn't spend
discount.
much on it either. It wasn't quite $2, but it was inexpensive, which is why I've had it for almost a year now. And I kept like, I should open it, I should do a flip through. And then you were like, let's color from it. And I'm like, yes. So I did film a flip through that will air on the channel at some point. I'll color another page and slap it together for a flip through and coloring video. All right, there we go. And see if chat has calmed down any. Oh, there we go. It looks like whatever was going on with StreamYard and the chat has calmed down. Does it let me pull it right up this time?
Well, that's good.
Yeah. All right, let's see. Luke's belt is black. No, technically it is black. So that wide, expansive palette of A New Hope.
You would know better. Brick is asking if that A New Hope page is newer. I know you've colored a couple versions of it.
Yeah, this one, yeah, it's from this book over here, which was published in 2022. So yeah, pretty new. Which is why the art is better, because the original 1977 pages, as you have seen, Brick, because I've shared some of those with you for one of the streams we did, are a lot more. I mean, it was all slapped together really quickly. It was in the we've got to get something out and something out quickly. And the coloring books for A New Hope were only released in Canada and Australia. So basically the way they made those was they got students from a Canadian art school and brought them in and had them make 4 coloring books worth of pages. And in some cases they literally were just, it looks really like some of them were just made from throwing tracing paper over actual photographs, and a few of them were made copying panels from the Marvel comics. So oh yay, ads. So as long as we can get on there, it'll be interesting to see what it looks like when I get back on there. And maybe whatever they've done will be fine and it's as good as it ever was. I'm not feeling hopeful because it's been turned into such a political, theatrical, nonsensical thingy. So hopefully.
Maybe we'll get lucky and they'll just sell it to Elon Musk, right?
Yeah, right. Grimes' ex-boyfriend is not lucky.
I realized the other day that man is the modern day Ray Kroc.
Who?
Ray Kroc, the quote unquote founder of McDonald's.
Oh, no.
So Ray Kroc didn't actually found McDonald's.
Right.
He invested in pretty early and helped them expand. And what he
Ah,
actually did is started the McDonald's Realty Company,
right.
where he would buy the land that McDonald's would franchise onto.
Okay.
And so he's credited as the founder of McDonald's, even though he's not.
Yeah, but that doesn't allow for an apartheid run emerald mine, which is how Elon Musk made all of his money. So.
Well, sure. But this, I was just thinking, he didn't create Tesla.
Oh yeah, no, that
You
Tesla
know.
guy did back in the day. Well, apparently Elon doesn't even play his own video games, so go figure.
Yeah, I saw that. That's really funny. In such a like rich whatever guy thing to do.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
There we go. Oh, looks like I just got rolled. Am I back? There we are. Excellent. There we go. StreamYard. Let me see if I'm getting some sort of... No, it's not my internet. Just StreamYard. I've had a few issues with StreamYard as of late anyway. Might be time to get a new service.
Well, I know the great StreamYard migration got postponed for a little bit.
Ah, that might be what's happening. I'm going to be very low on their totem pole, I assume.
Well, just with people, getting the higher rates and wanting to move to different services.
Yeah. Yeah, they did offer me a deal so that my price basically locked in for a while. So
I didn't get no such deal because I only ever subscribed for like 1 month.
I've subscribed to it pretty early on because it just, you're sort of limited as far as how many hours you can stream if you've got the free version. You also have to have the little StreamYard icon in the upper screen.
Right, which is super obnoxious.
It's really obnoxious, and it's not even a good logo. Like, if they had a cool logo, then I would have been slightly less annoyed, but it's a really bad logo. I almost feel like that's on purpose.
Well, you know it when you see it, at least.
Yeah, there's that, but I feel like if it were a good logo, people wouldn't mind so much. But because it's such a bad logo, people are like, get that out of here. I'll just pay to make it go away. And I don't know why I suddenly just sounded like my grandmother for that, but whatever.
No, I always did it the hard way because I can't help myself.
You do OBS though, right?
Yes.
I used OBS once to try to do a stream, and I swore never again. And then there was that time I guested on your show when you did the Ahsoka episodes, and like you had such a hard time getting us on that I was like, well, okay, good. It wasn't just me.
Yep, that's right.
It made me feel better. So I know you were feeling stressed about the technical issues, but I'm going to tell you, I felt so much better because I'm like, oh, I'm not just bad at this.
Yeah, no, OBS is a pain in the butt. And I find you have to have kind of quite a bit of computer power behind it.
Yeah. And I'm wondering if maybe that's what's going on with StreamYard. I am on my super old PC, but which won't last because I have a new PC on the way. My PC is 6 years old, which in computer time is 100.
Yeah,
So,
try working in a corporate environment and explaining that.
yeah. Well, I don't work corporate, but I do have a job that requires internet and various systems, and it's been really evident the last couple of months that my old computer is slowing me down. So, which I'm gonna obviously not get rid of it, but once I get everything onto the new machine, I actually was like, well, I can just, because this one is good for editing and storing files because it has a ton of memory. So I'm going to use this one to edit all my videos on going forward, which means I can basically keep a computer on that has, because right now, because of the way my work works and because I deal with HIPAA stuff, I can't just sort of I have to have different profiles.
Right.
But on the new computer, if I keep all my work profile stuff on that computer, then I can have it all up. So there'll be no more of the when somebody asks me for something, I'll get to that after work when they can access that profile.
Yeah, whenever I have to destroy a hard drive with information on it that's sensitive is always fun because I just take a big ass hammer to it and then put a drill
Yeah.
to it. Go for the gusto.
Well, that's really actually the only way, right? Because even if you wipe the computer, doesn't it still somewhere have all that stuff stored?
Right. Theoretically, you would want a secure delete where what it does is it wipes, fills it, wipes a couple hundred times. So you just put so much data on it that it's hard to determine what is what.
Got it.
But yeah, shattering it into little tiny pieces is as good as any measure.
That does seem like a lot of effort. That does it. Like, I've had this cold for weeks, and I've been trying to do a couple voiceovers for videos, and it's just not. I need to just cave and go to the doctor and probably get some antibiotics for it. I hate going to the doctor. And I hate taking medication even more.
I gave in pretty quick when I had the flu, and I'm glad I did.
Yeah, see, and that's the thing, if it were worse, but it's basically a common cold, and like I used to not get them. And then I started working almost exclusively from home, which once you stop going to an office and being exposed to everyone's germs, ironically, you get sick a lot more because you don't build up those immunities. And then after lockdown, like I could think about a cold and get sick. So I've been trying to let this one run its course so that I can start building up immunity to it because we are not in as urban of an area as we used to be, so I can't, like grocery delivery is not a thing that happens out here. So I have to go out among the people more. You have to go into town to get groceries now. So if I want pizza, I have to order it, and I can order online, but I have to go pick it up. So which is, not a complaint per se, because the cost of living when you own your own stuff is much different than when you're renting.
It's a different existence.
And we've also, we're also in because we're in a more rural area. It costs a lot less. So, there are a lot of sort of advantages to it, but the one advantage I've not yet done is going out among the people and building up my immunity to things like the common cold. So if you guys hear a voiceover video in the next couple of weeks where I sound super coarse and hoarse like this, it's because I was just tired of waiting. I get really impatient. Like I must release it. I have this internal idea of when a video should drop. It's gonna happen. I don't care. Gesundheit.
If I don't do something real fast, it's never gonna happen.
Yeah, well, that's funny because I just dropped my Colonel Blast video, right?
Yeah.
That video has been in work for like a year now. And I was like, oh my God, Rio Blast is being released. I'm going to miss it. And then they pushed Rio Blast back. Not going to lie. I was like, oh, thank God. That gives me another 2 or 3 days to finish this video. So
I was just happy because it gave me a little while to save a little bit more.
There's that too. He now drops right after my paycheck, so I can justify.
He drops on Tuesday, right? Or is it Monday?
Tuesday, the 21st at 9 a.m.
Perfect. McFarlane also has a bunch of drops this week. I'm looking forward to.
I need to check with you because now that we have a little bit more space, I've been regretting some of my McFarlane things I haven't picked up, and I know that sort of in your area sometimes stuff lingers a little bit more than in my area. So there are a few things I'm looking for that. So anyway, we'll chat about that off screen.
Okay. But yeah, I know Power Girl goes up for pre-order on Tuesday. Or Wednesday.
It's actually a really cool Power Girl too. Like
Well, and if history is any like measure, she will sell fast.
Right. Yeah, I gotta say, although McFarlane has really failed at including the ladies and superpowers, he's made some really good, and this is, you guys mark this on your calendar and with the time. I'm about to compliment Todd McFarlane. But I do feel like he's done a really good job in the multiverse line of actually giving a solid selection of lady figures. Like, I wish he could extend that to superpowers because that's, I feel like, where it's really lacking. But he's
It
done a
could
pretty.
be better, even in both of
It
them.
could be better, but considering McFarland and his well noted aversion, like, I think he's done a really good job. And the other thing I'll say is there are fewer of the women figures that he drops where you kind of go like, ooh. I mean, like, Marvel Legends releases a lot of women, but there are also a lot of Marvel Legends women where I'm like, ooh, that's not the best take. And what I will say with McFarlane, when he does drop a woman in Masterverse, it's been very rare where I've been like, oh, that's not, yeah.
I mean, if anything, I do wish Power Girl was a little beefier. You know,
She
the
should
the
be a little
Amanda
beefier.
Connor style, but
Yeah. And it's weird because everyone, like, I know I have a certain reputation for my feminism, but Power Girl is one of those characters where it's like she should be very busty. She should be very voluptuous. Like, that's established. Like,
oh yeah, no, I
when
fully
people do,
agree. I also appreciate her having a frame that supports it.
yeah, I like, even Adam Hughes, who sometimes goes a little too cheesecakey. When he draws Power Girl, he like gets the proportions right. One of my favorite artists who does comics is Phil Jimenez, and I unfortunately do not appreciate his Power Girl. Like, she just doesn't quite like, he tries to beef her up, but he also tries to. I don't know. It doesn't work for me, unfortunately. And I think my Infinite Crisis Power Girl is based on his design, and it's one of my least favorite Power Girl figures I have.
My thing is, I remembered that figure so fondly for so long, and then I recently saw it and went, "Huh,
It's not aged well, but
I know."
the Wonder Girl Donna Troy figures from that Infinite Crisis line are pretty good.
That is actually on my shelf. I have that figure on my shelf.
I got both of them. They're in that drawer there because I had to take everything down when they were doing the windows in here. But I don't know if you can. Oh, you can barely see it, but right here, oh, they're knocked over. But I've got two shelves right here of superpower. Technically, that's the Batman Returns Catwoman, but she fits. So I need to find the box to see if I have the other superpowers, vintage ones up here, or if those are still in Texas. And if they're still in Texas, that means I need to go home in May and either ship stuff back or just drive down there and drive back so I can get the box with the superpowers. Because it would be really nice to have my Cyborg and Mr. Miracle and Orion.
I
No
would love to
tear.
see Todd do a newer, more comic accurate Orion.
That would be really cool. It would
I
just,
get that he's not very toyetic though without his sled.
he's not, but at the same time, like, the sort of genericness of it, he could definitely reuse some tooling from that. And that's really like, I sometimes think that the real reason we're not getting a lot of women in superpowers has nothing to actually do with Todd.
It's not having the tool.
It's the right, and but that's why you do somebody like, say, Vixen, because Vixen, you can just do a sort of generic body type and achieve several of her costumes just through paint apps. And then that
Oh,
body you could reuse with some Wonder Woman arms to do a couple different Donna Troys. You could, use that body with paint apps to do.
Well, I don't know if you saw the interview that Ryan Dole and Jay did over on Gotham Sage Tonight with a former sculptor on superpowers.
Yeah.
And he talked about how in the last few lines, the tooling budget got way shrunk down.
Yeah, I saw that.
So unfortunately, their only female buck is Wonder Woman, and there's a lot of Wonder Woman specific sculpting there.
Yeah. And that's the problem with when you, and I sort of get it because the original Superpowers line was specific and had no part reuse, unless you count the Super Amigos Riddler. But otherwise, within sort of the main two lines, there was not reuse of parts. Kenner sort of had moved away from that, starting with Star Wars, where it's like every figure was a new sculpt.
The irony is that's what I hated the most about the Mattel multiverse line towards its end.
Right.
It's so many figures were just flat with painted details.
Yeah, well, agreed. But also, the problem with them, with that in the Mattel lines, is that it was in characters where it made no sense, where like the flat with no detail didn't work. Like, it works if you're doing fire and you're going to do her translucent green. But if you're going to do her sort of in one of her costumes, unless you do one of her jumpsuits, the rest of them require some like belts and all the stuff.
Well, it's like their Jessica Cruz figure is purely painted.
Yeah.
No details at all.
That would be a great band brick. Catching up on chat. I apologize again. This is one of the advantages and disadvantages of me and Chris. Like with brick, I forgot it exists. Exactly. This is the right formula, in my opinion. Yeah, like it takes a while, and I'm opening a bunch of stuff now that I actually can start displaying stuff. Like, there's a lot of stuff I freed from plastic prisons over the last few weeks that have been in cards. There was one thing I opened, a Star Wars figure that has been mint on card since 2015, only because like I didn't really have a place to properly display it, and then I put it right into a plastic bin because they were redoing the windows, but once all the renovations are done, like I'll be able to do a proper.
I have totes and totes of unopened stuff, and it's a problem. I promise. I'm trying to promise myself I'm not going to just buy stuff because it's cheap. But I also bought 2 Sectars figures yesterday because they were $2.
Ooh, which ones did you get?
Well, it's the 2 Nacelle ones.
Ooh, those are. I have the Stellara. She's pretty good.
Yeah, well, like I said, they were $2 a piece at Walmart. And I was just like, $2. I can't pass that.
Oh, actually, no. She's over there with the 2 Masterverse, She-Ra and Frosto. But I'm not going to go grab her because there's stuff that I would have to move. Nobody needs to see my butt again today. You guys get one Allison's butt on camera per episode. And it happened earlier. So.
It's all right. Until about 15 minutes before stream, I wasn't wearing a shirt. So that would have been an interesting choice.
That would have been something. That would have been the talk of Toy Tube. Again,
I'm positioning myself as the Brett Kreischer or whatever his name is of Toy Tube.
Somebody's got to do it. Again, I don't know.
Chris Plastic, the big fat chubby hairy guy. That's all his Toy Tube and without a shirt.
Nobody's doing it, and if Dole isn't going to do it, why not you?
I think Dole is in better shape than we realize.
Dole isn't really good. It's just fun to pick on him like that. He got really like. There was one day in Discord where I was like, "You could be Road Pig."
From man, he took some offense that day. In good jest.
And I was like, no, I meant the vintage O-ring one. He was just beefy, like built. I was like, oh, okay. But,
You know what? Dole is one of my favorite people to deal with, just because he is shockingly like kind of a nice guy.
he's very nice. He's very accessible, which is not always the case. Um,
I always have strange conversations with him too. Just like, oh hey, did you know about this weird exclusive Japanese Ranma game? What?
right. Yeah, no, I chat with him about comic books and vintage Kenner stuff. Because Joel, it's Joel.
Yeah.
Like, you're gonna have a conversation with Joel. Like, I certainly have never pinged him and been like, "So how's the weather?" But I'd be like, "Oh my God, have you seen this vintage thing that popped up today?"
I think one of my favorite full circle kind of days was I was on Lanterns Live with Ralph talking Green Lantern on Superman. And he was like, "Oh man, Ryan Dole just sent me these images." And I thought it was really funny because I sent Ryan Dole those images.
Oh, there you are.
Yeah.
Apparently, somebody named Curtis went shirtless on the clubhouse. So,
Oh, dang it, Curtis.
oh, Curtis, that Curtis. Okay. Yeah, Joel is definitely great people. So I need to buckle down and get him on here at some point.
Oh, I'm sure he would do it in a heartbeat.
He has told me a million times, like, let's just let's schedule it. And I don't. It's not necessarily like, like mentioned to somebody, and they're like, well, like Joel doesn't care like how big your channel. And it's like it's not that. It's like when you get a guest like, like Ryan Joel, you're gonna get people who come watch your show who's never watched your show before and aren't necessarily gonna get what it's about. And you just have to be prepared for that. And I don't say that in a mean way. Like,
Right. I mean,
like if
truth be told, if I ever have Dole on my channel for any reason, it'll probably be pro wrestling.
right.
Just to really mess with everything.
Well, yeah, it's like my sort of rule when I ask people to be on my channel is like, do they have more than 10,000 viewers? And if they don't, then they're good size for me to have on, because it means any audience that comes over just to see them, is used to sort of smaller YouTuber. Let's finger
Sure.
quote that. When you start getting people who have 10K to 20K, like those people, there's a different production value that comes with that level. And I'm not, like I'm still just sort of fucking around in my office with this shit. So there we go. Got all the cursing in for the episode. So when you bring people in, you have to be cognitive of.
But I will say, I see YouTubers who have hundreds of thousands of subscribers that don't look any different than this.
It's true. I just, I've got some productions, it's some stuff I probably need to work through on my own head. But, it's also like, I have my own ideas about what I want it to look like. So I don't know. We all
Have
have our
fun with the
goals.
kids there, Brick.
Oh, have fun. That's way more fun than hanging out with us, I'm gonna wager. We are old and sucking the life out of you. Whereas your kids will help predate you, and basically you can be the vampire in that situation instead of us being the vampire. I will say it's nice. After doing so much art from those vintage Star Wars books, the New Hope ones, the Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi books, Kenner did had pretty decent art. It is really nice though that this actually looks like Carrie Fisher. And as I add everything to it, it looks more like Carrie Fisher once the colors start adding in. So
I am excited for the potential new Ray movie if that ever happens.
I am as well. Like, I'm excited to see where that happens. Like, I don't know. I liked Ray. I know people were weird about it, especially people who don't understand what a Mary Sue is. Um, but I am hopeful that we'll get that movie will happen and it'll have some good stuff. And
Like going back to a very early conversation, one thing I kind of wanted out of Rise of Skywalker is that Skywalker became a title in her
right,
new whatever order.
right. Well, I felt like that's almost what they were trying to imply with it, and that it just didn't quite land. So I also like honestly just feel like, and technically I'm not one for sort of for this, but I feel like in this case, like I really feel like they sort of dropped the ball with Princess Leia or General Organa. Like I sort of get the hesitancy and how ghoulish it can seem to like use CGI to recreate a dead actor. But I feel like in this case, like there are a couple they could have easily there are a lot of ways they could have worked around it. I think the hesitancy around it really sort of stifled a lot of it. And they could have even recast. Like there are ways they could have recast that did that. And so I think it's an instance where like there are a couple things they could have done that wouldn't have felt quite so ghoulish that people would have got for story, or they just write her off.
Well,
But
and it was an awkward way for her character to end.
yeah, it didn't feel for me. Did not ring necessarily. And again, they're working with what they've got, but
Right.
I also wonder if the end of how they ended it, and her scenes in that movie would have played different if we hadn't have seen all of those scenes already in the extra features of Force Awakens.
Sure.
Because we'd seen all of that stuff already, so it's not like anything there was new. All right, let's see. I need chestnut and there we go. I'm trying to find all the colors for Leia hair, and I found them. So yeah, I kind of and again, I'm not usually one for sort of CGI stuff. When it's the Tarkin stuff and Rogue One, even the CGI younger Leia and Rogue One at times feel weird. But I think in the case of Rise of Skywalker, if they had just used and Billy Lord's, like as we got with the one flashback where they used Billy and grafted younger Leia onto it, it definitely that one worked really much better than the Rogue One did. And I think it's just because Billy Lord's facial structure is close enough to her mom's that it worked. It wasn't because the actress they had for Rogue One, her face is wasn't quite there. No offense to that actress, she's lovely. She's actually gorgeous. But like her facial structure wasn't quite close enough to Carrie Fisher's for that grafting to work. But if they had just done 2 or 3 scenes extra with, where they grafted her face onto Billy Lord's to properly wrap it up, like I don't think anyone would have begrudged them for that. Like my feeling was those movies, if Carrie Fisher hadn't have passed, I always felt like the movies would have ended with Leia alive and basically being elected president or queen or whatever of the galaxy.
Well, and Ryan Johnson talked about that, how the third movie was going to be Leia's chapter.
Yeah. So again, they should have used the workaround that Luke, especially once Carrie Fisher died. They should not have. They should have used the world between worlds to bring Luke back in the next one because it was just too much of a bummer at the end with everyone dead.
Right.
Like I will say one of the things that bummed me out as I walked out of that audience is like, what happens to R2 and 3PO now? Who has them? Because technically all of the Skywalkers are gone. Like Chewbacca and 3PO and R2, like, and Lando, like, maybe, but they didn't give us any indication that that's what was going to happen. So I'm worried for our friends. So it would have been nice if they had given us sort of that ending. Hello. Well, welcome, and thank you for popping in. 3-star draw. That's a word I can't say without my accent trying to come out. Draw.
It's all right. I'm like Kenzo in that I have that middle of nowhere accent. So
I typically do whenever normally I used to, but more and more, like I said, it's been breaking lately where it's I don't know. It also more and more lately feels like more effort to talk without the accent. Somehow, like for a while, it felt very effortless, but lately, like, I don't know. It just feels like I'm having to try more than I used to. So I don't know if that's part of getting older too. But I should start doing my vocal exercises again. Which is mainly just repeating dialogue from Star Wars in Carrie Fisher's voice. So there you go. Let's see. No, I don't think I can even do it. Governor Tark. Wait. I should have expected to find you holding Vader's leash. I recognized your foul stench when I was brought on board. Yep, it's not happening. I have to start practicing. I used to be able to get the diction almost perfectly. But again, you get old, stuff changes. Chemistry, y'all. I'll say that we are at a place where people don't automatically assume you're a moron if you have a Southern accent, which used to be part of the issue, is people just automatically assumed you weren't smart. So I worked out losing the Southern accent so people didn't assume I was dumb. I mean, I'm not smart for other reasons, but not because I'm from the South.
So we've started watching a lot of Dropout content, formerly known as College Humor. And they've got a game show called Make Some Noise, where it's just you get a prompt and you're supposed to do the prompt. And the prompt was a North Dakotan. And the character went just like, oh, yeah, we really like it here. It's wonderful. Yeah, no, we moved here about 5 years ago, but I love it in North Dakota. It's like, ooh, messing with expectations. I like it.
My advice, 3-star. I'm not going to say draw because it makes it. Oh, there we go. My advice, and this is part of how I lost it, was I would watch the news, and I would find somebody on the news who had like a voice I liked, and then I would just practice talking. I would listen to them and I would practice over and over talking like the news people. Because they did back in the 80s and 90s train people to not have any sort of a regional dialect or any sort of an accent other than sort of this really generic flat accent, so that if you were a newscaster somewhere, and it wasn't necessarily where you grew up or whatever, people would find you approachable. And like, so if you're in Georgia and you have sort of this flat, unaccented voice, you're more trustworthy to them than if you came in with like a thick New York accent. If you go to New York on the news and you have a flat, unaccented voice, you're far more relatable than if you go in with the Southern voice. And it's sort of that instinct of outsiders most people have. So if you have an accent that's sort of not from quote unquote anywhere. It's a lot more, and there's sort of a trust thing that happens. And then my journalism teacher in college had recommended a couple different things to watch. And ironically, he was like, find somebody on a soap opera. He's like, you'll notice a lot of them have New York accents because a lot of them are New York theater actors who are taking these soap operas, like, to pay rent and stuff, because it's a regular job. You get paid so much a week. You don't always get paid in theater. He was like, find somebody on one of the soap operas who has a really thick, like a really noticeable sort of New York accent, and pay attention to the actors who don't, and then try to mimic, which soap operas don't really exist anymore. So yeah, I would say just go find somebody on the news that you like who has no accent, and just sort of practice repeating sort of how they do, and slowly but surely you'll find a way. It's a measured thing. And I think some of it is if you have a thicker accent, and this is true of any accent, not just Southern, it is sometimes harder for people to understand. So there's some practical things so that you actually, if you're not from the South, you don't always get all of the nuances of the accent. Just like if you're from New York, you don't always understand, all the things people are saying. So I know when my uncle first moved to New York, he picked up sort of the dialect. So we would come home and have sort of this really thick, and because of it, I still to this day will often find myself saying Manhattan, because that was how he would always pronounce it, because he picked it up when he was in New York. Or if I say Long Island, like it's still, no matter, because it's, he would come home and tell these stories about Long Island and Manhattan and the Bronx. So even with those, I sometimes will slip into a pseudo New York accent, because it's just, when he would tell all these stories, this is the voice I would hear them in. So that's how I learned how to say Manhattan. I can't even do it when I slow down. So there you go. So maybe don't take advice from me through Star about how to lose your accent, because I can't even say Manhattan properly. Manhattan. Oh, it's done. It's done. Yeah, exactly. So how is your page coming, Chris?
It's pretty good. I think I'm just like pushing myself on details now.
Nothing wrong with that. Mine is mostly done. I am gonna grab some markers though. And I know why I suddenly went up with markers. Like I'm revealing some big deal. But we're gonna use the acrylic paint marker to give these laser blasts some color.
Well, and this is my first time messing with the Scholar set from Prismacolor.
How are you liking those? It's a really good set. I quite like them.
The one thing I'm finding is there's not a lot of variety in some of the colors.
Yeah. The range isn't as wide.
Which is kind of shocking because it's a 60 pencil set.
Yeah.
So I wasn't expecting to go so you get like a bunch of different yellows and then white and almost basically still white.
Yeah. There are a lot of whites in there, and there are a lot of black. There are 2 or 3 whites in the set. And part of it is because it's a Scholar set. It's marketed as a budget brand.
Sure.
And a lot of the teachers who will recommend it for art students, it's and this is part of why you have the extra whites and the extra blacks, because they will use it. There are fewer greens, there are fewer yellow, fewer everything. So then the goal is that you would take the white and the black and use those to blend blend, blend and shade and get to the color you want, which is why there are more grays in that set than you would get in a typical Prismacolor, one of the smaller. So you don't start getting many grays, if any, in Prismacolor until you get to this 72 set. The smaller ones are basically primary color based.
Sure. I am appreciating the gray variety, though.
Yeah, and that's because, like that's how in art school, well, college art classes, that was sort of, you would get really basic colors, and then the teachers would have you use blacks and grays to sort of get that range and to blend and sort of increase your color range. So, all right, really quick, my page is done, so I'm gonna solo layout it really quick so everyone can see. There we go. I'm pretty happy with it. I'm glad you picked this book and these pages. And I'm going to put you on solo really quick. Excellent. That looks really good, Chris. And what I want to point out and really illustrate is how far you have come from the first time when we did one of these. So,
well, thank you for that.
Like you're getting really good. Like, like you're doing some shading stuff, and you didn't even ask me about shading or how to do stuff this time. So soon the learner will become the master.
Yeah, I doubt that, but that's all right.
Hey, it could happen. You never know. Yeah, who knows? Maybe one day you'll be like the Picasso of adult coloring. It could happen. And then you'll go to Manhattan. And you'll go to Manhattan and have a big opening. And then afterwards, you go to Long Island for drinks.
That's right. Where I'll have just an iced tea, please.
You'll just have an you'll have an iced beverage. I wish I could do a transatlantic accent, but unfortunately, I will leave that to Madonna. All right. And with that, we are at 2 hours and we're finished. So we should probably wrap this up. First, I would like to thank everyone who's been here today to watch this. Chris, where can the people find you, and what will you be doing when they find you?
Well, that's an excellent question because I'm not sure where to find myself at the moment. But I do theoretically have a channel called Shiny Plastic People. I've got nothing planned at the moment.
Oh.
But I am there. So, stop on by. You can see me unbox toys and ramble.
Well, that's good. And you do unbox quite a bit of stuff, so there will be stuff. Let's see. What is tomorrow? Really quick, I should look at, because I've got stuff coming out. Tomorrow is Monday, Martin Luther King Day.
And nothing else.
I have to go buy groceries. Tomorrow I have a Color and Chill Spectacular dropping for the 40th anniversary of She-Ra. It's the first 5 pages from the Who's Who and She-Ra coloring book. There's the cover page, 2 map pages of Etheria, which came out really good, so you should watch those, as well as Adora and She-Ra. And heads up, all 5 of these are the first 5 things I ever filmed for my channel. They're just getting released now. So those will be out. That'll hit tomorrow in the morning, so watch those. Let's celebrate 40 years of She-Ra, and then as always, shorts. And the next Friday, Color and Chill. Just Color and Chill next Friday. No, video. And then next Friday, Color and Chill is She-Ra and Friends. Frosta is throwing snowballs at them. So enjoy. And the next Sunday, I'll be here live at 11 a.m. with Andrew from Gatie's Toys, and we'll be coloring She-Ra. So if you can't tell, there's a whole motif for this next week. So thank you very much. Thanos, lovely to see you. And on that note, we are going to head out. Thank you, Chris. Thank you to everyone in the chat. as always, I appreciate you for hanging out with me, and everyone in chat, I appreciate you too. Yep. And let's see. In the immortal words of Kesha, TikTok, don't stop. DJ, turn the records on. Tonight, I'm a fight till I see the sunlight. I think that's what Kesha